Porter Williams.
Mr. Chairman. I want to concentrate my call on the extension of eligibility around some critical areas, around seasonal and casual employees, around whāngai adoptions and around home for life parents, and also extending the paid parental leave to parents who have children who are born preterm. And on that note, I would like to just say that, just like to welcome the newest member of our extended whānau, Baden Pagera, who was born about 4 weeks ago at the tender gestation of about 35 weeks. And I understand from Mum that he's just about due to go home any day now. And I bring Baden into the conversation because had this bill been passed earlier, his mum, Phoebe, would be able to take advantage of the fact that he was born preterm and have an extension of paid parental leave for the weeks that he was preterm. So he was around 5 weeks preterm. So his mum would have had access to 5 weeks on top of the increased eligibility to 18 weeks. And I think that's an important thing to talk about, because preterm babies, it is very stressful giving birth in any situation. You know, having a baby is a big deal. But when baby is not quite through all of the cooking that's required, it can, not quite done, a little underbaked. It is quite a stressful time for parents, for mums particularly, and to be able to have that extra support and to know that you can support your child, your baby, through to the period of time when they are ready to go home. I talk about my own experiences many years ago when my own daughter was born 7 weeks early. The stress that's placed upon new parents to support preterm babies is quite significant. You're often very vigilant around being there, because baby will be in hospital for some period of time until their bodies are developed enough to be able to cope with being at home full-time without the support of medical staff and nurses. So it's quite a stressful time for parents. And I know in my own experience, being mindful that my daughter being so preterm, she hadn't developed the ability to suckle. So we were tube feeding her for a period of weeks. And I remember getting the call at 11 or 11:25 one night after I'd gone home after a day at the hospital with her to say that the reflex had come on. So I dashed into hospital. I can see you nodding, Dr. Reti, you know what I'm saying. I dashed into hospital to take advantage of the fact that she had reached a developmental milestone. And that's often what happens with preterm babies. They are not fully able to function completely independent of some intervention. So it's really important for parents to have the ability to be there to support their babies until such time as they're well enough to go home and be cared for by mum and dad at home. So I think that's very important. The other aspect I want to talk about is whāngai adoptions, and I'm pleased to see that that they are being recognised as because within Māori and Pacific families, they are a very normal way of ensuring that children have the opportunity to be brought up by people who may not have the ability to conceive children on their own. So it really provides that every child has a parent who's appropriate and can take over the care of those children. And within my own family, there are many occasions where whāngai has been used to support children who may have parents who are unable to care for their children, or who might actually have a lot of children and want to just share the love a little bit. It's not unusual in Pacific families, particularly for parents to have children specifically to provide for a childless couple. And I know of one case in particular where a friend of mine, Mr. Chair,
Williams.
Thank you, where a friend of mine had been in contact with a couple who had a young child. They were having some difficulty in raising the child. There were some external issues placing some pressure on the children. I remember her coming to work on a Monday morning and saying to me, yesterday I went to lunch and came home with a baby. And my first reaction was, what are you doing at work? And over a period of time we negotiated how she would be able to take some time out to bond with this child. These are not unusual situations, and it's good to see that Parliament has recognised these unusual, perhaps, ways of supporting families through whāngai adoptions, and I'm very pleased to see that as part of this bill. I just want to touch on the rest of my call around some of the issues that have been raised around keeping in touch hours. And I completely concur with the concerns that have been raised. It is and can be a very, very useful mechanism for working mums who have established careers, an opportunity to maintain contact not only with the workplace but with any new workforce development or training or professional development that's going on, to maintain contact with new ways of working, new technologies, new people even who may be starting on a team. So I think it's an important aspect, but I do also mirror the concerns about who should determine whether a new parent should actually have the keeping in touch hours. There's been some concern raised about the issue that it is done by negotiation between employer and employee, but I am of the mind that really it should be at the choice of the employee that they wish to do that. Because there may be some things that happen within that paid parental leave time that may mean that they are unable to take advantage of the opportunities for these keeping in touch hours. So I'm concerned that around this particular aspect we don't lose the fact that paid parental leave is primarily around supporting parents to be at home to care for their children, and that must be the prime reason that they are taking the leave, and any perceived pressure that might be applied by employers needs to be taken out of the equation by ensuring that the employee is able to direct that completely themselves. Just in saying that, there are very useful situations where keeping in touch hours can be used, can be prescribed, and I think that it is a useful mechanism to ensure that when that parent is ready to go back to the workplace, that they are as ready to pick up their work as they can be. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.